Meet Elena, a divorced nurse, now a librarian. Her new life is quiet, but something's about to change. The fluorescent hum of the underfunded public library was a stark contrast to the urgent beeps of a hospital ICU. Elena Ramirez ran a weary hand over a dusty shelf, the weight of her new reality settling heavy. This was her fresh start, a quiet night shift to pay bills and keep a roof over her children's heads. This library holds more than just old books. What did the last librarian leave behind? Her first task: organize the medical history section. Elena found it unusually disheveled, even for a library with a shoestring budget. As she began to sort through the aged tomes, a peculiar pattern emerged. Certain old textbooks, specifically those on anatomy and pharmacology, seemed intentionally out of place, almost as if someone had arranged them with a purpose beyond simple shelving. A flickering overhead light cast long, dancing shadows, making the quiet section feel strangely expectant. Elena's fingers traced the spine of a worn volume, a prickle of curiosity replacing her earlier weariness. An old book, a mysterious message. Is this just a forgotten note, or something much bigger? Later, at the front desk, Elena pulled an old anatomy textbook from her cart. It was one of the oddly placed ones. Inside, nestled among the intricate diagrams of the human body, were delicate, handwritten annotations. They weren't marginalia about publishing dates or loan records. These were medical observations, diagnoses, and strange symbols. Elena recognized the elegant, slightly shaky script from a staff memo about library procedures she'd seen. It was Dr. Reed's, her predecessor's. But why would a librarian be making detailed medical notes in a publicly accessible book? This was more than a forgotten scribble. Is this just an eccentric librarian's notes, or a hidden message waiting to be solved? Under the glow of a reading lamp, Elena tried to make sense of the notes. Her nurse's mind, accustomed to dissecting complex medical information, immediately recognized an anomaly. The annotations didn't directly correlate with the textbook's content. Instead, specific words were circled, page numbers highlighted, and cryptic symbols appeared alongside medical terms like renal function or cardiac output. It was almost as if the notes were a separate layer of information, a hidden language overlaid on the scientific text. Elena pulled out a small notepad, her analytical instincts kicking in, driven by an unsettling intellectual challenge. A puzzle, a code, a corporation, and water rights. Elena just stumbled into a conspiracy. Back in her small apartment, the city lights a distant blur. Elena worked relentlessly. Her children slept soundly in the next room, their quiet breaths a stark reminder of why she was here. Using her deep nursing knowledge, cross-referencing medical terminology with the circled words and symbols, Elena slowly, painstakingly, broke a small section of the code. The fragmented letters coalesced into a chilling phrase: AquaGen Corp, water rights. A shiver, cold and metallic, ran down her spine. AquaGen, the massive corporation currently lobbying for land acquisitions near the tribal territories. Water rights, a battle she'd only seen on the news. This wasn't just Dr. Reed's eccentric notes. It was a desperate message, a whisper of secrets that threatened to drown an entire community. AquaGen Corp? A sustainable water company, or something far more sinister? Elena's apartment was a battlefield of information. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, alongside discarded printouts and open browser tabs. She'd spent the entire night chasing down the name from Dr. Reed's cryptic notes, and what she found was unsettling. AquaGen Corp presented itself as an eco-conscious enterprise, but deeper digging revealed a pattern of aggressive land acquisition tactics, specifically land bordering indigenous tribal territories. She cross-referenced local news archives, finding a disturbing frequency of protests by the Canyon Creek tribe, dismissed as activist theatrics by local officials. The environmental concerns raised by tribal elders were routinely downplayed. A knot tightened in Elena's stomach. This wasn't just corporate expansion. It felt like a calculated encroachment. It's not one book, it's a library. A network of secrets, hidden in plain sight. Back at the library for her next night shift, Elena moved with a newfound purpose. The mundane task of shelving books was now a treasure hunt. Her previous discoveries had been almost accidental, but now, armed with a chilling suspicion, She systematically searched the medical history section. And there they were. Several more old textbooks, tucked away, each bearing Dr. Reed's distinctive, intricate annotations. Circled words, strange symbols, page numbers underlined with deliberate force. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a meticulously crafted trail, a desperate message left in plain sight. Dr. Reed hadn't just left notes. She'd left breadcrumbs, a silent plea echoing through the dusty shelves. The code is broken. A powerful corporation is stealing from an indigenous tribe. Elena can't ignore it. Hours melted away in Elena's apartment, the glow of her laptop screen illuminating her determined face. Each deciphered phrase was a punch to the gut. The code, once an intellectual puzzle, now screamed a damning narrative. Asterisk, Canyon Creek Tribe water treaty violations. AquaGen's long game contaminated wells, forced relocation. The full horror of the plot dawned on her. A powerful corporation, backed by seemingly legitimate political figures, was systematically orchestrating the theft of a community's most vital resource. Not just money, but their land, their history, their very survival. Elena, a nurse dedicated to healing, felt a surge of outrage that burned through her weariness. This wasn't abstract injustice. It was a wound being inflicted on real people, a community fighting for its life. She slammed her hand on the table, the maps and legal terms spread before her. This was personal now. Elena's not alone in the library. Is someone watching her? Or is it all in her head? The library was quiet, the fluorescent hum a familiar drone. Elena was alone, or so she thought. A chill, not from the air conditioning, prickled her skin. It was the unsettling sensation of being watched. She paused, listening. Nothing. Just the faint groan of the old building. But when she turned back to the stack of books she'd just shelved, an old botany text stood slightly ajar, its spine facing the wrong way. She knew, with a certainty that made her heart pound, that she had shelved it correctly. Her eyes darted to the nearest security camera. Had it shifted? Just a fraction of an inch? Or was her mind playing tricks, twisting shadows into threats? Elena has a choice. Protect her family, or fight for a community. What would you do? Elena stared at the decoded note spread across her kitchen table, her children's soft breathing the only sound from the next room. The enormity of what she'd found pressed down on her, a physical weight. She could try to ignore it, pretend the coded messages were just the ramblings of a troubled predecessor. She could protect her children, her fragile new life, by burying the truth. But ignoring it meant condemning a community, allowing powerful corrupt forces to steal their future. It meant Dr. Reed's desperate plea would die unheard. A single tear tracked down Elena's cheek, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce resolve. She couldn't unsee it. She wouldn't. The fear was real, a cold knot in her stomach. But the knowledge, the undeniable truth, demanded action. Elena's jaw set. She would fight. Elena Ramirez had barely slept since decoding the first cryptic phrase. The fluorescent hum of the library archives, usually a dull drone, now felt like a buzzing hive of secrets. Days blurred into a montage of late-night coffee, discarded research papers, and the frantic dance of her fingers across Dr. Reed's meticulous, maddening annotations. She cross-referenced obscure medical journals with tribal land claim documents, legal precedents with environmental impact studies. Each deciphered word, each connected symbol, painted a more horrifying picture. This wasn't just about a single land grab. This was a sophisticated, long-term campaign, a methodical discrediting of the Canyon Creek tribe's ancestral land claims, a calculated diversion of their vital water resources. Elena, a nurse who once diagnosed illnesses, now found herself diagnosing a systemic rot, a creeping dread settling deep in her bones. This wasn't just a corporate scheme. It was a blueprint for an entire community's slow, agonizing demise. The implications deepened as Elena spread a large map of the region across her apartment floor, illuminated by the harsh glow of her laptop. Dr. Reed's notes, layered with faded newspaper clippings and blurry photocopies of old treaties, revealed a chilling pattern. This wasn't a new fight for the Canyon Creek tribe. It was a continuation. Elena traced lines on the map, connecting current corporate acquisitions to historical land grabs from decades past, seeing how economic development was just the latest guise for dispossession. Her nursing instinct, trained to see underlying causes, now saw a profound, generational injustice. Anger simmered beneath her weariness. This wasn't just a conspiracy against a community. It was an assault on their very identity, their history, their future. She couldn't unsee it. She wouldn't. The library phone, usually a quiet presence, shrilled, cutting through the afternoon stillness like a blade. Elena's hand trembled as she answered, a prickle of unease already crawling up her spine. Public Library, this is Elena. A distorted, synthesized voice crackled through the receiver, devoid of human warmth. Stop digging, Ms. Ramirez. Mind your own business. Elena's breath hitched. Who is this? She demanded, her voice wavering despite her best efforts. You have such beautiful children. The voice continued, ignoring her question, the digital modulation making it sound both mechanical and utterly menacing. It would be a tragedy if something happened to them. The line went dead. Elena stood frozen, the receiver still pressed to her ear. Fear, cold and absolute, enveloped her. They knew about the notes, about her, and they knew about her children. But the terror, sharp as it was, ignited something fiercer. A defiant, protective rage. They think they can scare me? They have no idea. The threat against her children fueled Elena's research with a new, frantic energy. She plunged deeper into Dr. Reed's past, searching for any connection, any vulnerability. Old articles about a medical ethics scandal and Dr. Reed's abrupt dismissal from a prestigious university hospital surfaced. Elena's eyes narrowed as she cross-referenced dates, names. The same year Dr. Reed's career imploded, a young, ambitious state senator named Alistair Thorne had chaired the ethics committee that condemned her. Thorne, now a powerful, unassailable figure in state politics. A formal photo of a younger, smiling Thorne next to a stoic Dr. Reed, taken at some long-forgotten charity gala, seemed to mock her from the screen. The conspiracy wasn't just corporate. It reached into the highest echelons of power, explaining why Dr. Reed had been so thoroughly silenced. The web was far more intricate than Elena had imagined. Elena's fingers brushed against the spine of an old, leather-bound volume on ethnobotany, a subject far from Dr. Reed's medical expertise. A loose page, almost imperceptible, protruded. Inside, tucked into a hollowed-out compartment, was a single, fragile sheet of paper. Dr. Reed's elegant, familiar script filled it. But this wasn't coded. It was a desperate, personal plea. They are everywhere. They control everything. I tried to warn them, but they just disappeared me. I pray someone finds this. Someone brave enough to listen. Someone who can protect the innocent. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Dr. Reed hadn't just been disgraced. She had been silenced. Removed from the equation. Elena felt a profound, aching connection to the woman she'd never met. Dr. Reed had left a trail of breadcrumbs, not just for justice, but for rescue. And Elena was her only hope. Elena Ramirez took a deep breath. The scent of cedar and sage subtly present even outside the Canyon Creek Tribal Community Center. She pushed open the heavy wooden door, stepping from the harsh midday sun into a space that radiated warmth and ancient stories. Traditional artwork adorned the walls, vibrant tapestries, intricate pottery, each piece a testament to enduring spirit. Elena felt a profound sense of apprehension. She was an outsider, a Latina nurse from the city, carrying a heavy secret. She asked for Miguel Santos, the tribal elder, her voice barely a whisper. The few community members present offered polite, watchful glances, eyes that had seen too much, been promised too much, and trusted too little. Their guarded skepticism was a silent echo of generations of broken promises. Miguel Santos led Elena to his office, a modest room filled with books, maps, and faded photographs of ancestors. He settled behind a sturdy oak desk, his wise eyes, lined with years of quiet observation, fixed on Elena. She laid out her findings. Dr. Reed's meticulously decoded notes, the maps detailing AquaGen Corp's aggressive land grabs, the research on Senator Thorne's shady connections. The evidence was damning, undeniable, but Miguel only nodded slowly, a deep weariness in his gaze. He began to speak, his voice calm, yet carrying the weight of centuries. He spoke of treaties broken, rivers diverted, of promises whispered and then cruelly forgotten. He recounted tales of past betrayals, of outsiders who arrived with grand pronouncements of help, only to leave with stolen land and broken spirits. Elena listened, a knot of frustration and understanding tightening in her chest. Her evidence was solid, but it was fighting against a history etched in the very soul of this community. As Miguel finished, the silence in the office was profound, broken only by the rustle of Elena's papers. He studied her face, searching for something beyond the facts, for the fire of true conviction. He saw it there, burning bright. "I've had my suspicions about AquaGen for years," Miguel admitted, his voice softer now. "They move like shadows, always just out of reach." He looked at Elena, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You bring something new. A clear map of their darkness." He agreed to help, his deep knowledge of the land, water rights, and the labyrinthine local politics suddenly unlocking countless doors. Elena felt a surge of profound relief, a burden shared. A quiet handshake sealed their unlikely alliance, a shared purpose forged in the face of overwhelming power. The local police precinct was everything the tribal center wasn't: sterile, unwelcoming, bathed in the cold glow of fluorescent lights. Detective Anya Sharma, a woman whose face carried the permanent exhaustion of 1,000 unsolved cases, listened to Elena with a jaded expression. Elena presented her findings, the decoded notes, the AquaGen research, the link to Thorne. Sharma leaned back in her chair, unimpressed. "Conspiracy theories, Ms. Ramirez," she stated bluntly, tapping a pen against her desk. "Hearsay, no concrete, admissible evidence. And Senator Thorne, you have any idea the kind of political pressure I'd face pursuing something this speculative?" Elena felt the familiar bureaucratic wall slam down, disheartened but not broken. She left the precinct with shoulders slumped, but a flicker of defiance still burned within her. Later that day, in the quiet solitude of her office, Detective Sharma stared at the notes Elena had left behind. Her initial dismissal had been rote, a practiced response to the deluge of wild theories that crossed her desk daily. But a few details gnawed at her. The specific financial irregularities Elena had pointed out, the mention of Thorne's name in connection to AquaGen, even the peculiar coding system. It was all a bit too precise for a conspiracy theory. Her professional instincts, dulled by years of institutional inertia, began to stir. Anya picked up her phone, making a discreet call. "Run a background check," she murmured, giving a few names Elena had mentioned. Quietly, a seed of doubt had been planted, and Anya Sharma, against her better judgment, was about to water it. They tried to silence her. A library accident turns into a chilling message. Elena's getting too close. Elena Ramirez moved through the hushed stacks, the late-night quiet, a familiar comfort now. She hummed softly, rearranging a cart of returned books in the medical history section, a task that once felt mundane but now felt sacred. The coded annotations were burned into her memory, each cryptic symbol a silent scream from Dr. Reed. Suddenly, a groan ripped through the silence, deep and metallic. Elena froze, her heart hammering. Before she could react, a cascade of shelves, heavy with decades of forgotten knowledge, buckled and toppled. Elena lunged backward, the roar of falling books and splintering wood narrowly missing her head. A cloud of dust billowed, settling over the chaos. Her breath hitched, fear coiling in her gut. This was no accident. A quick scan of the warped metal supports confirmed it. Bolts were deliberately loosened, cut halfway through. They weren't just watching, they were acting. Her terror quickly morphed into a cold, hard fury. They wanted to intimidate her? They just lit a fire. The truth about Dr. Reed's disgrace is revealed. She was a hero, not a villain. And Elena is her legacy. Back in her apartment, the scent of dust still clinging to her clothes, Elena meticulously examined the remaining coded books. The sabotage at the library had shaken her, but it had also sharpened her focus. She found it tucked inside the spine of a battered old pharmacology text, a delicate, leather-bound diary, barely thicker than a pamphlet. Dr. Reed's familiar, elegant script filled its pages, not with medical notes, but with personal entries. Asterisk. They know I'm digging. Thorn. Vance. They're everywhere. Elena's fingers trembled as she read, tracing words filled with fear, frustration, and an unyielding resolve. Reed detailed her attempts to gather evidence, her growing isolation, and the methods used to discredit her. Asterisk. They won't listen, but someone has to. Someone has to finish this. Elena closed the diary, tears blurring her vision. Dr. Reed wasn't disgraced. She was silenced, and now her ghost was speaking through Elena. Elena finds a hidden sanctuary, a place of ancient wisdom and modern tools. The fight is about to begin. The next afternoon, Miguel Santos met Elena outside the library, his expression grave. The library, it's not safe anymore, Elena. He led her on a winding drive deep into the Canyon Creek tribal lands, past ancient mesas, and through sun-dappled forests. Finally, they arrived at a secluded, almost invisible structure nestled into a hillside. It was a modest building, blending seamlessly with the earth, but inside it was a marvel. This is our Ancestral Knowledge Center, Miguel explained, his voice imbued with reverence. A place for our stories, our history, and sometimes, our protection. The center was equipped with secure communication tools, shelves filled with old records, maps, and even a small, solar-powered server. It's a safe haven, he said, gesturing around. And now, it's yours too, for as long as you need it. Elena felt a profound sense of relief, a spiritual connection to this place of resilience. Here, she could truly begin to fight. They're planning her disappearance. Elena's becoming a major problem for the powerful elite. Meanwhile, in Senator Alistair Thorne's lavish downtown office, the city lights twinkled like distant, inconsequential stars. Elias Vance, AquaGen's CEO, sat across from him, a cold intensity in his eyes. The library incident was sloppy, Alistair, Vance stated, swirling an amber liquid in a crystal glass. Thorne paced, agitated. Ramirez is proving more persistent than Dr. Reed. She's becoming a real nuisance. He scoffed. A divorced nurse. Who would have thought? Vance's gaze sharpened. Nuisances are best removed. Permanently. The anonymous calls, the minor accidents. They're not working. She's getting too close to the Reed situation. Thorne stopped pacing, a predatory glint in his eyes. Then we accelerate, make her disappear. Quietly, of course. We don't want any more martyrs. He smiled, a chilling, humorless gesture. She'll learn that some secrets are best left buried. Elena's made her choice. She's not just a nurse. She's a warrior. And she's ready to fight. Back at the Ancestral Knowledge Center, Elena stared at a faded photograph of her children, their smiles precious and fragile. The senator's threat, though unheard directly, resonated through the library's sabotage and Dr. Reed's desperate diary. I'm scared, Miguel, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. For them. Miguel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. That fear, Elena, it is a powerful protector. Elena looked up, her eyes burning with a new resolve. But it's not enough to just protect. I have to fight. For my children, for your people, for Dr. Reed. She squared her shoulders. I'm a nurse. I know how to find the weakness, how to stabilize the crisis, how to heal. But I also know how to fight for a life. Her jaw set. Thorne and Vance think I'm just a librarian. They're about to find out they're dealing with something much more dangerous. Elena ran a tired hand over the fabricated document, the parchment yellowed to perfection, the script a meticulous imitation of Dr. Reed's elegant hand. This was it. The bait. Thorne and Vance thrive on control and secrecy, Miguel, she explained, tracing a finger across a diagram of the library layout. They've covered their tracks for years. The idea that a single, definitive piece of evidence exists, one they haven't secured, will drive them mad. Miguel, seated across from her at the Ancestral Knowledge Center's planning table, nodded. His wise eyes held a glint of cunning. They believe they are untouchable. This will make them vulnerable. Elena's confident smile was a stark contrast to her earlier fear. We'll make sure the rumor reaches their ears. A whisper about a lost ledger or a hidden codicil, revealing everything. Something too tantalizing for their arrogance to resist. Miguel leaned forward, his gaze steady. And when they come for it, they will come to your library. Elena's jaw set. Exactly, and I'll be waiting. She gestured to the map, a glowing point marking the medical history section. It's time to turn their greed into their downfall. The whisper campaign began, subtle as a mountain breeze, yet insidious in its reach. Miguel Santos, a master of community networking, moved through his world with quiet purpose. At the local coffee shop, he'd casually mentioned to a distant cousin that the old public library had unearthed some interesting old property records. At a city council meeting, he'd subtly inquire about the provenance of certain historical documents, just loud enough for a junior aide to overhear. On the golf course, during a rare game with a local businessman, he'd lament the fragility of old paper, hinting at an invaluable archive. Each interaction was brief, carefully worded, a seed planted in fertile ground. The rumors, like tributaries, flowed into the main river of local gossip, eventually reaching the ears of Thorne's vast network. A hidden document. A definitive proof. The powerful began to take notice. Detective Anya Sharma sat in her office, the only light coming from her computer screen, casting a grim glow on her face. Weeks had passed since Elena's desperate plea, and Anya, despite her initial skepticism, couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her gut. She'd quietly started digging, pulling strings, and sifting through the bureaucratic waste of corporate filings and political donations. Now, her evidence board was a spiderweb of connections. Shell companies funneling money from AquaGen to Thorne's PACs, suspicious land deals approved by his cronies, and a chilling pattern of anonymous complaints dismissed, whistleblowers silenced. Dr. Reed's name reappeared in a dusty internal memo, listed as a, quote, person of interest in a forgotten ethics inquiry that was abruptly closed. Damn it, Anya whispered, slamming a new printout onto the board. Elena hadn't been paranoid, she'd been right. The scale of corruption was staggering, and the threads led directly to the senator and the CEO. Anya's professional cynicism had vanished, replaced by a fierce, unyielding resolve. The net was tightening. The librarian? Still bothering us? Senator Alistair Thorne swirled champagne in a crystal flute, his private jet soaring high above the city lights, a tapestry of power beneath them. Elias Vance, ever the stoic, polished his expensive watch. The rumors are spreading, Senator, about a document, a definitive proof. Thorne chuckled, a condescending sound. A waitress, a librarian, now a detective. What a motley crew. Do they truly believe they can touch us? Vance's gaze was steely. The rumors, however unsubstantiated, are causing ripples. Our investors are asking questions. It's a nuisance. Thorne sighed, a performance for his CEO. Very well. It seems I must personally retrieve this definitive document. A little show of force, a reminder of who holds the true power. He believed Elena to be a naive amateur, easily intimidated. Vance merely nodded, a cold, calculated anticipation in his eyes. She won't see it coming, Senator. Another small problem, elegantly erased. They were coming for Elena, confident they could crush her. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The library hummed with a different kind of energy that night. No longer a quiet sanctuary of knowledge, it was a meticulously prepared battleground. Elena moved through the darkened stacks, a ghost in her own domain, her nurse's precision now applied to tactical deployment. With Miguel's calm assistance, she secured miniature cameras in the spines of books, motion sensors beneath loose floorboards, and pre-programmed audio cues hidden in dusty ventilation shafts. Choke points here, here, and here, she whispered, indicating points on a hand-drawn map. Escape routes through the old staff entrance and the boiler room. Vantage points from the mezzanine. Miguel checked the wiring on a small speaker. They will walk right into it. Elena's hands, so often tending to the sick, now deftly configured small devices. The library, familiar in its every creak and shadow, was transformed. Miguel secured the main entrance, a quiet click echoing in the vast space. Elena took a final look, her heart thrumming. This wasn't just a building anymore. It was a fortress, ready for a fight she couldn't lose. The grand oak doors of the public library swung inward with a faint, almost imperceptible creak, a sound Elena had meticulously enhanced. Senator Alistair Thorne strode in first, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the quiet, dusty grandeur of the space. Elias Vance, CEO of AquaGen, followed, his eyes sharp and calculating, scanning the shadowed aisles as if appraising real estate. Behind them, two hulking security guards, their movements precise and heavy-footed, fanned out, their eyes darting with predatory efficiency. "Empty, as expected," Thorne drawled, his voice echoing with an arrogance that made Elena's blood run cold, even from her hidden vantage point in the surveillance room. "This little librarian thinks she can play games with us." Vance offered a cold smile. "She'll learn her place soon enough. Find the document, quickly. I have a board meeting in the morning." They moved deeper into the stacks, their casual dismissal of Elena and their surroundings a testament to their overconfidence. They were predators, walking into a cage they believed they owned. The library became Elena's canvas, a meticulously crafted labyrinth designed to disorient and divide. From her command station, a small, hidden room accessible through a discreet panel behind the ancient card catalog, she watched their movements on a bank of small monitors. A faint, almost subliminal hum, a sound Elena had programmed to mimic the building's aging pipes, began to emanate from the medical history section. A security guard, the one with the bulkier frame, detached from the group, drawn by the phantom noise. Then, a flicker. A single fluorescent light in the periodical section stuttered, drawing the attention of the second guard. Elena's fingers danced across the control panel, precise and deliberate. A low thump, like a heavy book falling, resonated from the non-fiction aisle. Thorne barked orders, his voice now laced with a hint of irritation. "What is that infernal noise?" "Vance, focus. Find the document." Elena moved through the hidden passages, a ghost in her own house, guiding them deeper into the maze she had built. The shadows stretched and danced, turning familiar shelves into menacing walls. The hunters were becoming the hunted, unaware they were being herded. Thorne and Vance, now alone in the vast, echoing main reading room, looked increasingly agitated. They circled the central display table, where Elena had strategically placed a single, unassuming medical textbook, the bait. Just as Thorne reached for it, a sudden, jarring crackle ripped through the library's ancient PA system. His hand froze. Then, a voice, clear yet tinged with a weariness that transcended time, filled the silent expanse. It was Dr. Evelyn Reed. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Reed, and I dedicate this confession to anyone who finds it. Senator Thorne and Elias Vance of AquaGen Corp. They are systematically poisoning our community, discrediting the Canyon Creek tribe's water rights, and silencing anyone who stands in their way." Thorne's face drained of color, his jaw dropping. Vance stumbled back, eyes wide with horror, as Dr. Reed's voice continued, detailing shell corporations, bribed officials, and forged documents. Elena watched from her hidden panel, a grim satisfaction settling in her chest. Dr. Reed's story, once buried, now echoed like a judgment, amplified by the library's vastness. A ghost speaking truth to power. The ghostly echoes of Dr. Reed's confession still hung in the air when the first wail sliced through the mountain stillness. Police sirens. Distant at first, then rapidly approaching, their urgency shattering the library's eerie quiet. Thorne and Vance exchanged a frantic, panicked look, their arrogance evaporating like morning mist. The main doors burst open, bathed in a sudden, blinding wash of blue and red flashing lights. Detective Anya Sharma stood silhouetted in the doorway, her presence as sharp and unyielding as the glint of her service weapon. Behind her, a phalanx of uniformed officers fanned out, their movements disciplined and purposeful. "Senator Thorne, Elias Vance, you are surrounded. Drop your weapons and put your hands where I can see them." Anya's voice, authoritative and clear, cut through the chaos. Thorne sputtered, attempting to regain his composure. "Detective, this is a misunderstanding. I'm Senator Thorne." Anya merely raised an eyebrow, a flicker of grim satisfaction in her eyes. Elena emerged from the shadows near the archives, her presence a quiet, unwavering testament to the truth. Thorne and Vance were caught. Their power, once absolute, crumbled under the weight of an old book and a brave nurse. As Thorne and Vance stood, handcuffed and defeated, under the glow of police flashlights, another set of figures appeared in the library entrance. Miguel Santos, his face etched with quiet dignity, led a group of Canyon Creek tribal members. They entered silently, their presence a powerful, living rebuke to the men who had sought to steal their future. There were elders, young men and women, their eyes fixed on Thorne and Vance, not with anger, but with a profound, knowing sorrow. Thorne, seeing the faces of the community he had sought to dispossess, finally broke. His shoulders slumped, his gaze falling to the polished floor. Vance tried to avert his eyes, but there was no escaping the silent judgment. Elena stood beside Miguel, a deep sense of connection forming between them. The fight had been hers, but the victory belonged to all of them. Miguel nodded at Elena, a silent acknowledgement of her courage, of the justice she had brought. The library, once a place of quiet secrets, now vibrated with the collective power of a community united, their presence solidifying the moral weight of Elena's claims. The main reading room, once a sanctuary of quiet knowledge, now hummed with the electric tension of justice being served. Senator Alistair Thorne and Elias Vance, their faces pale and etched with defeat, stood in handcuffs, surrounded by officers. Elena stood opposite them, a stack of meticulously organized documents in her hand, her posture radiating an authority forged in fire. Detective Anya Sharma, her own evidence board a damning visual, nodded to Elena. "Senator Thorne, Mr. Vance," Elena began, her voice clear and precise. "My investigation, building on the courageous work of Dr. Evelyn Reed, has uncovered a comprehensive scheme, an intricate web of shell corporations like AquaGen Corp designed to funnel illicit funds, forged land deeds, intended to undermine the Canyon Creek tribe's ancestral claims, and a pattern of political maneuvers orchestrated by you, Senator, to dismiss legitimate environmental concerns and silence whistleblowers." She held up a document. "This, for instance, is a falsified environmental impact report, approved by a bribed official, detailing the harmless diversion of tribal water." Anya stepped forward. "We have corroborating financial records, Senator. Your offshore accounts tell a very different story than your public declarations." Thorne and Vance remained silent, their arrogance finally shattered by the cold, hard facts. The glint of their handcuffs reflected the flashing police lights outside, a stark symbol of their crumbling power. This is a misunderstanding," Thorne stammered, his eyes darting between Elena and Anya, a desperate flicker of his old charisma trying to ignite. "A professional disagreement. We can resolve this. Ms. Ramirez, Detective Sharma, name your price." "Anything. A clean slate, a substantial donation to your community initiatives, an early retirement package. This can all disappear." Elena met his gaze, her expression devoid of emotion. "It's not for sale, Senator." Anya, her face a mask of professional contempt, turned her back on him, walking away to consult with her officers. Thorne's desperate offer, once a tool of his untouchable power, now fell flat, revealing only the pathetic corruption beneath his polished facade. Elena felt a surge of cold satisfaction. He truly believed everyone had a price. He was about to learn that some things were worth more than money. Elias Vance, the shrewd CEO, ever the pragmatist, saw Thorne's failure and quickly pivoted. Senator Thorne was the architect. Vance interjected, his voice surprisingly steady, though a tremor betrayed his corporate facade. AquaGen merely followed directives. I was under duress, forced to comply with his political agenda. Elena held up a binder, Dr. Reed's coded notes now fully deciphered and cross-referenced with AquaGen's internal memos. "Mr. Vance, Dr. Reed's notes detail your active participation, including your proposals for expedited water acquisition and discrete legal challenges to tribal claims." She flipped to a page with Vance's signature on a document outlining the aggressive land acquisition tactics. "This isn't," following orders. This is ruthless ambition, Mr. Vance. Your own fingerprints are all over this conspiracy. Vance's eyes narrowed, anger and fear warring on his face. He opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. His carefully constructed image of a responsible businessman had crumbled, leaving only the naked greed underneath. Elena then turned, her gaze softening as she held up a small, leather-bound diary, its pages fragile with age. But this isn't just about exposing corruption. It's about remembering those who fought against it. She opened Dr. Reed's diary and read, her voice resonant in the quiet library. They think they can silence the truth with money and power, but the truth is a seed. Once planted, it will grow no matter how much they try to bury it. Someone will listen. Someone will care. Miguel Santos stepped forward, his wise eyes filled with profound gratitude. Dr. Reed was a brave woman. Her spirit lives on in this victory. Anya nodded. She laid the groundwork. Without her, none of this would have come to light. Her sacrifice won't be forgotten. Elena gently closed the diary, a quiet moment of remembrance for the woman who had sown the seeds of justice. Dr. Reed, once a disgraced name in the library's archives, was now a posthumous hero. Outside the library, the early morning air buzzed with activity. Flashing police lights painted the scene in hues of blue and red. News vans with satellite dishes crowded the street, their reporters jostling for position. Thorne and Vance, their faces now devoid of any pretense of power, were led out in handcuffs, shielding their faces from the blinding camera flashes. Senator Thorne, any comment? Mr. Vance, what do you say to the charges? Microphones were thrust forward, but only silence, laced with palpable fury, answered them. Detective Anya Sharma stepped up to a makeshift podium, a stack of folders in her hand. We can confirm the arrests of Senator Alistair Thorne and Elias Vance, CEO of AquaGen Corp, she stated, her voice firm and professional. They face multiple charges, including conspiracy, fraud, and violations of tribal water rights. This investigation was made possible by crucial citizen cooperation. As Thorne and Vance were bundled into waiting police cars, Elena and Miguel watched from a distance, a quiet sense of victory settling over them. The cameras followed the departing vehicles, but the real story was the one standing silently in the shadows, the woman who had dared to read between the lines. Months later, the Canyon Creek tribal lands pulsed with a renewed vibrancy. The river, once threatened by AquaGen's greedy machinations, now flowed clear and strong, its waters teeming with life. Children, their laughter bright as sunlight, splashed at its edge, their faces reflecting a future secured. Elena watched them, a profound sense of peace settling over her. This was what they had fought for. Miguel Santos approached, his wise eyes crinkling at the corners. You saved us, Elena, he said, his voice a low rumble of gratitude. You had no reason to, but you stood with us when no one else would. You saved our future. Elena met his gaze, a quiet satisfaction warming her chest. We saved it together, Miguel. Dr. Reed started it. I just helped finish her work. The air hummed with the energy of a thriving community, a testament to what courage and intellect could achieve. Justice, she realized, tasted like fresh water and children's laughter. The public library, too, had been transformed. No longer underfunded and dusty, it now gleamed with new life, a true community hub. Elena, though still officially a librarian, moved through its bustling halls with the confidence of a leader. Her days were filled not just with shelving books, but with consulting on community projects, leveraging her newfound skills to empower other marginalized groups. She had helped establish the Community Justice Initiative right there in the library, a beacon offering legal aid and educational resources. A new plaque by the entrance, simple yet profound, honored Dr. Evelyn Reed for truth and justice. Elena smiled. Her journey from nurse to reluctant detective had forged a new calling, one she embraced wholeheartedly. She wasn't just solving problems, she was building a movement. At a local coffee shop, the unlikely trio, Elena, Miguel, and Detective Anya Sharma, met over steaming mugs. The tension of their earlier confrontations was replaced by an easy camaraderie, a shared understanding forged in the fires of injustice. Thorne and Vance are appealing, of course, Anya said, stirring her latte. But the evidence is ironclad. They're going away for a very long time. Elena nodded, a quiet triumph in her eyes. Good. Anya then leaned forward, her gaze sharpening. I've been looking into some other land disputes, similar patterns, different names. Seems AquaGen wasn't the only corporation playing dirty. Miguel's eyes met Elena's. The fight was far from over, but now they had partners. Then we'll be ready, Elena replied, a steely resolve in her voice. Later that night, Elena watched her children playing in their modest new home. A comfortable house overlooking the city. Not a mansion, but a home filled with warmth and safety. Her daughter giggled, chasing a ball with her son. Elena's heart swelled with a pride that had nothing to do with money or status. Her fight had changed their future, yes, but it had also changed her. The weary, divorced nurse who had started at the library felt like a distant memory. Now, she was a protector, a strategist, a force for justice. Her greatest inheritance wasn't financial. It was the strength she had found within herself and the example she had set for her children. A legacy of courage, a promise that love and intellect could indeed conquer overwhelming greed. During a quiet late-night shift at the library, Elena walked through the now familiar medical history section. Her fingers traced the spines of the old textbooks, a silent tribute to Dr. Reed. She paused at a specific shelf, pulling out a newly acquired, unassuming volume on environmental law. Inside, tucked discreetly into the binding, was a small, handwritten note. It was cryptic, hinting at a new injustice, a new fight brewing in the city's shadows. The note ended with a familiar, empowering phrase, asterisk, trust yourself. You're stronger than you know. Elena carefully returned the book to its place. She walked away, leaving it for the next person who might stumble upon a secret, a challenge, a calling. The code was back. Elena had passed the torch. What impossible thing would you accomplish?